Hello, my friend Kerry.
Hello, my friend Renee.
All
Oh my
right, I gotta
goodness.
start with we decided to do this recording
Mhm.
because first I feel like I've got things I want to find out from you. And second, you're in a position that not people are in every day, so you can
Yeah,
certainly
not
share
really.
more. And at the
This is
same
also
time, I
true.
kind of like let you talk and and let me just start with the elephant in the room because let's see if I can get through this, Carrie.
I know. Okay, wait a minute. I don't know about you, but I got mine
Carrie
here.
was just telling me
So,
we don't even have Kleenex. I'm like, let me grab some paper towels and just have it handy. Shoot, wait.
how does it not have Kleenex? I,
But that, okay, let me try this. So
okay,
the beauty of you is that shoot. Okay, where did I just here we go. It's on the floor. Um,
okay.
what I love about you, just to put that out there, is just your sense of humor, your strength, your I mean, I have learned so much already from you just in the friendship that we've had. And I feel like, okay, even more so. Shoot, I thought I'm gonna be all strong coming in.
It's okay. I know.
No, Carrie's the strong
You
one.
got it.
But I'll just jump in with you're in hospice now, right? You're approaching hospice. And
Yeah, so almost 3 months.
wow, okay, so
Yeah,
almost 3 months of hospice.
almost
You'll
three
have to
months.
backtrack to where you were, what, a year ago? 14 months ago, or
Mhm.
whenever it was that you found
Mhm.
out of your diagnosis, and we'll go into that.
Yeah,
And we
yeah.
just wanted to talk because I know you probably have things you want to share. I have things I want to hear from you. And it's going to be like your message to the world or to whoever watches,
Yeah.
listens, whoever you want to have listen to this.
Right.
But starting with that, backtrack, I'm just going to let you take over while I just sniffle over here by myself.
Okay. So it's probably, I'm gonna say it's probably approaching almost 2 years
Oh, wow.
since
Okay.
I kind of had an inkling that something might be up.
Yes.
And so it'll be like 2 years in January that I was like, I think there's a problem and I should start looking into this.
And just to give a
And
little background on you is that you are the person who has taken health into her own hands because you have
oh
gone
yeah.
through, and it didn't just start 2 years ago, but like even to go
No.
back, which is why I completely followed you and still would to this day to find out, okay, so when you suspect things are off, yeah, you can go to all of the experts. So anyway, I shouldn't interrupt you so much, but I just want to make that clear that it wasn't like, oh yeah, fine, I'm 100% normal one day. I mean, although I'm
Oh
sure you
yeah.
felt that one day, and then you start suspecting
Well,
things.
so that's kind of the interesting thing is that, yeah, I mean, absolutely. I I walk the walk, talk the talk. Like I have had Hashimoto's for, I don't know, 15 plus years and was not satisfied with the answer of here's a pill and you just need to take it for the rest of your life. And this just happens to some people. I wanted to know why. And that led me into the deep dive of trying to figure out why and doing absolutely everything within my power to stay as healthy as possible, to not get any more autoimmune conditions. Because by the time I got Hashimoto's, I had already had like five. So,
You
and
knew
they
that
just stack.
you were aware of those other five, like you knew
Yeah, like I had my first autoimmune condition when I was like 18.
because I remember you
So,
told me about
yep,
how to stack. So
right.
when you have one,
Exactly.
you have to take control of your health. You have to
Exactly.
because if you don't, they're going to stack, and you have to know and trust the people that you're working with and getting advice from. And
Right.
so, okay,
And so, and a couple years ago, like it was around when COVID started. Like I went into a huge autoimmune flare, and I thought it was all brought on by perimenopause. I don't know. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I mean, I could have been exposed to COVID and that freaked my system out. I don't know. But I definitely had noticed like a shift in my energy level and my body and everything. I mean, I was still doing everything that I was doing, but I felt like I was like, oh, so maybe I'm just getting older. I'm in my 50s now. Maybe this is just what happens and yada da da.
And you were
So
already full on board with like the functional medicine
yeah,
approach to everything. So this is not like that you're come out and now you're just learning. You were already you
yeah,
had taken and you were feeling up to that point, you had conquered so many things
right.
amazingly well with diet change and exercise and all
Yep.
of the things. So you had
Oh
like
yeah.
you had you not done that, you would have been way worse off.
Oh yeah, it probably would have been a huge like you are sick because I was already gluten-free, soy-free, low sugar, um, eating organic. Like I had removed all of the endocrine disruptors from my world, like got rid of all the plastic containers, was making my own tooth powder, making my own deodorant, like all of the stuff. And and I was like natural makeup, and not that I'm wearing any of it right now, but but anyway, like I had already done all of those things, all of those things. And so, yeah. So so then, you know, fast forward a little bit. So like when I went into autoimmune flare, my doc at the time and I just adjusted like finessed my thyroid meds and things calmed down, and then I transitioned through into menopause, and everything seemed, fine except for some mild hot flashes, but it was good. I was like got to my 1 year mark and did
Did you
fireworks that my
celebration?
girlfriends had.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Did.
She went the
Yeah.
1 year mark
I
means
mean, they thought it was for New Year's Eve, but
so
I
this
was
one does
like,
not count.
no, we're celebrating menopause, baby. Like,
Exactly. It's that 1 year. You're not officially in menopause until you've gone a full
yep.
year with any cycles and you hit it. Did it happen to be on New Year's Eve or something? Is that
It did. It actually did. It actually happened to be like right around
in
that time.
true
So,
Kerry celebration? That is how Kerry
oh
does things.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I looked at my girlfriend and her husband and I'm like, you think it's for New Year's, but this is my menopause party. Like, I just want you to know. So, like, yeah, we're the new generation that actually talks about it. So,
That's
whereas, yeah, our parents' generation did not talk about
not
it.
really
So,
know what to expect.
I
Yeah.
was like,
Yep.
yep. So, so anyhow, yeah, so probably like almost 2 years ago, January is when I started to feel like something was not quite right. And it was just when I was lay on my right side, when I would go into bed, I felt like the sheets were bunched up, and I like would try to like smooth it out, and I was like, huh, that's weird. And and then that kind of went on for I don't know, a couple months maybe. And every once in a while I would do a breast exam and I didn't feel anything. Um and like everything was kind of tender, but on both sides. And
This
when
is
you have
here.
yeah, and when you have Hashimoto's, everything is tender. There's a lot of overlap between like people think they have fibromyalgia, but they actually do have Hashimoto's, and they just never got tested for the antibodies, and that's what it turns out to be. So anyway, yeah, so, and then one day it was like, oh, I felt something. And so that's when I went and got thermography done. But unfortunately, it was, I had never had thermography done before, so it was a baseline. I didn't have a baseline to compare it to. And so I recommend getting a baseline so you can compare it.
How did you know to go and get thermography done? You knew enough about it, or you had somebody tell you?
No, I knew enough about it just through all of my functional medicine training and all the stuff that I had learned over the years that that was definitely the way to go, that they could pick things up faster. Um, but like I said, you need to have that baseline so you
So
have
would
something
you
to
even
compare it to.
would you recommend like who should get that baseline? Anyone?
I would
Anyone?
say anybody should get that
Now, what does
baseline.
what does that mean? Like, what do you
Oh,
do?
it's just it's so super easy. I mean, it is so not invasive at all, and it's not dangerous at all. It's basically like a thermal imaging
Okay.
kind of scan that they do, and
Mhm.
it picks up the hot and cold spots, and um, and tumors are very hot,
Okay.
so
So you can see right
they light
away,
right up. Yeah, they light right up. But
but you don't have a base,
um, what?
but you didn't have a baseline. So when you saw it, or
Right.
when you saw it, or interpreted to you, it was
So
normal for somebody else. So
they no, so what they thought it was fibrocystic breast tissue, which I had never dealt with before. And they were like, oh, yeah, and we think you're estrogen dominant. And I'm like, no, like, yeah, no,
did they
like,
do
I
blood
would
work
not,
to find out?
nope, nope.
Oh, so
So it
they're going
was,
on what they
yep,
think.
yep.
Oh,
So, um, so anyhow, and at the time I was like in the middle of high school swim season coaching, and I was like, oh, fibrocystic. Okay, no problem. There we go. I got to go back to coaching. Like, I don't have time to worry about this. And of course, I was in an indoor pool in the chlorinated environment, and that was just fueling things as well. Um, and like I was in a pretty significant amount of discomfort. And I was thinking, oh, well, fibrocystic breast tissue hurts and breast cancer supposedly doesn't. Well, I just had this tumor exploding in my chest and didn't realize that that's what was going on. And so it wasn't until like March where I had already reached out for a new naturopath anyway. And by the time I went to see her, that was the more important subject. And she was like, yeah, I don't normally do breast exams, but I think it would be warranted here. And so she did a breast exam, and she was like, oh, yeah, no, this is not fibrocystic. And as a matter of fact, you have a lymph node involved. So I'm going to send you off and refer you elsewhere. So by the time all of this, all of these things take time for people to make appointments and yada, yada, yada. Um, she actually got me in with a surgeon, and I had an ultrasound planned for that day after I met with a surgeon. And the surgeon looked at me and she's like, okay, well, without all of the conventional testing that we normally do, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it probably is. And that's what I'm going to say, because at that point, things were already deforming, and there were physical changes that were already happening in the breast. So I mean, like I said, it went from nothing to something, huge very quickly.
Less than 6
And
or less
oh,
than 3 months.
oh, yeah. Oh,
Mm,
yeah. Yep. And so, anyhow, I went and had the ultrasound, and she called me afterwards, and she was like, so, because she had said in the office prior to that, like, oh, well, at this point, we're just gonna have to remove the whole breast. Like, there's nothing that we can save. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then after the ultrasound, she was like, actually, we cannot operate because the tumor is already attached to your chest wall. So we can't we can't operate on it. And I went, okay, I know what that means. Thank you very much. And she's like, oh, no, no, wait, we can. And I'm like, yeah, no, no, thank you. That's, that's not, that's not how, like essentially it's a terminal diagnosis. And, um, I knew that it would be okay, we're gonna throw everything at the book at you and um yeah, with a very slim survival rate. And I was just like, no, that's not how I want to live whatever time I have left, is being sick and wishing I was dead.
yeah,
Like, no. That was a very hard decision, but that is what resonated with me.
yeah,
And I think, I've learned through this journey that everybody, like, no judgment. Like, everybody has to walk their own journey.
yeah. So you'd say
Yeah.
you wouldn't do anything differently at that,
I
look
wouldn't. I
back.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
I absolutely wouldn't
Well, it sounds like
because
too, that because of the outcome that it could be, it could have been different, but the likelihood that it could have been worse, or just your standard of living. Because when I look
yeah,
at you and just the conversations that we've had along the way, I'm always like,
yeah,
wow, even though your body is just disintegrating, on the inside, that joy you still have, that like
yeah.
when we talk, I'm like, Kerry, you look, and you've been able to walk around, like you've been able to, like, oh yeah,
Oh,
I'm going here,
yeah.
I'm going there. It's like, if you had your way, if you knew back then, this path is this many months, this path is this many months, this is going to look like this along the way, and this is going to look like this along the way. And I agree. I feel like you chose the better path, and that would be hard to even, I mean, even in your position now, like, well, what if things could
Yeah.
be different? But at the same time, it sounds like it could have been a very hard time
Yeah.
on to now too.
And and here's the thing, like, God is so good. He's so good. And there have been so many people that he placed in my life along this journey that um, have had their own cancer journeys. And it's been really devastating to
Mm,
watch the things that they have gone through.
yeah.
And uh, and for not great outcomes.
Hmm.
And that, and most of them are dead already. And that was with all of the conventional standard of care. And even one of my closest friends, her sister had breast cancer. She went through all the conventional stuff and was told, you're cancer free. And I don't know, within 2 or 3 weeks, had a massive grand mal seizure, um, which led to temporary paralysis. It was so severe. Uh, and in the hospital, they realized that her brain was full of cancer. And within, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, they got her home from the hospital, and no sooner had she gotten home, but she just kind of went to sleep, and within a couple weeks she was dead.
Mm,
And that was having, getting that clean bill of health that cancer free. And it's like, oh, so just the emotional roller coaster that some of, what the families go through and that. And I was just like, no, I don't, I don't want to put my family through this. Like, and um, literally, literally like all of my kids, my husband, my friends, all of them have been 1,000% supportive because they've seen the alternative. And like you said, like I have felt really great. Like all things considered, I have been able to like keep going to fitness class and drive myself, to my chiropractor and my acupuncturist and all these
You went to
places. And
see your granddaughter, right?
oh
And
yeah, I mean,
it's away and so
I just
on.
flew out to Ohio a couple weeks ago, and I mean, that probably will be my last trip,
Yeah,
but yeah, I mean, just because of practicality, it's
yeah,
it's hard.
yeah.
Um, and um, but it's been very interesting having so we talked about that I was doing it for quality of life and that I chose this path because I would rather have a better, shorter life than a miserable, longer life and put my family through all that. And what I didn't realize is that it actually has given me not only quality but quantity. So one of my hospice nurses, so I have my nurse comes in every week to check on me, and she examines my wound and everything, and uh, takes a look at how things are going. And the first thing is that she's like shocked that how clean it is and that there's no infection, because normally at this point people are dealing with infections and um, even necrotic tissue and stuff, and I'm not dealing with any of that. um, and one of the nurses asked me, she said, so how long ago did your skin start dissolving? And I said, last February. And she was like, huh, that's really interesting. And I said, why is that interesting? And she said, well, because normally from the time that a person's skin starts dissolving to where you are now is about a month.
Wow, wow,
And yeah, so it's taken me 9 months
yeah,
for what another person would only take a month to
yeah.
get to. So that was really eye-opening, very eye-opening. Um, yeah,
And I remember checking in a couple times over the months with you, and I remember one time you said, that I don't know if you're referring to the test or the this or the that shows that it's serious. It's like it's basically eating you up, or I don't remember how you described it, but you felt good. You felt good. That's like
yeah,
so nice to know that to have all of
yeah,
that going on the inside. I mean, you're also very religious about taking the supplements and so on that
yeah.
you take, and so you have been
Mhm.
definitely, and you went to the one the doctor. I don't know if you want to talk about that or not, but the treatment center.
Yeah, so I had like for the first year I had kind of done my own thing and um like reached out to an herbalist and kind of did her protocol for a while. And then I realized things were progressing, so I found um a naturopath that had a oncology place for a while, and that he did consults. And so I reached out to him, and he had his protocol So I kind of layered that on to the other one, and but neither one was personalized care. And it was like, here's the protocol for all cancer, or here's the protocol for breast cancer, and just do my protocol. And it was like, well, do you want to see my blood work? Do you want to see anything? Nope, just here's my protocol. Just go do it.
And I hear that a lot too. And that's got to be frustrating because and I mean just from listening on audiobooks and so on, that every body is different. So
Right.
even the type of like weight loss thing you want to do can be catered to,
Hmm.
just because of our bodies being so different.
Yep.
Our stage of life is so different.
Yep.
Obviously, male or female is going to be very different. And so
Hmm.
if it's not a one size fits all, and so to even find a doctor that's actually going to listen and so
Exactly.
this will work better for you. That
Hmm.
to even know, I can't even imagine, because you kind of have that diagnosis, you know, kind of the timing of it potentially, and then how in the world would you even find the doctors? You know, like where do you even go? Because that's already when you've kind of got that quote death sentence. Now you got to go find someone that's really going to understand and listen. And you
Yes.
have so much history and knowledge already. So
Hmm.
you're even coming in to
Right.
say, and I know, knowing you, if that meant that you have to do a certain type of fasting, if you have to do the coffee enemas, Kerry will do them. You know, just like all of that
And I
stuff.
am.
And you're
Yeah.
the one willing to do that. So, I mean, even to have a
Yeah.
doctor who's not just going to blow you off as, she just wants the medications and just pop her with the pills, because
Hmm.
that has so many of the bad, horrible side effects too,
Oh
that
yeah.
would ruin your quality of life.
Well, it was interesting because it's funny that you mentioned that because so one of the first things that they do in conventional medicine with breast cancer is they put you on hormone blockers. Well, come to find out, I had my hormones tested and there were no hormones to block. Like there was nothing on board. Like literally like barely no estrogen and low progesterone, low, I mean,
Medicine, would they have tested that, or would they just put you on
no,
it?
I don't, I mean, that's not my world, but from what I understand, they don't usually do
Yeah.
extensive hormone testing. They just go, here's the standard of care. This is what we do. Take this pill.
And yet so
Um,
much can be told in that blood test, you know, in
yeah,
those hormone testing.
yeah.
Okay.
So, so anyhow, so I don't know, somewhere around like November, December of last year, somewhere around this time, I was watching a webinar that Dr. Karlfeld had done, and he was hosting it, and it was on cancer, and I was like, oh, well, maybe I might pick something up and I'll listen to it. And I listened to a couple of his interviews and I was like, I like this guy. And you know, he's speaking my language. I I like his approach. And at the end of one of his videos or interviews, I think, you know, they have the little plug at the end and they were like, "Hey, we do free 15-minute consultations and yada yada yada." And I'm like, what's it gonna hurt? Like a free 15-minute consultation. I can do this. So I reached out to him and made an appointment and was like, all right, he's listening to me and is interested in finding out what's going on in my body. Like, what's the root cause of what's going on? And so that's when I was like, okay, this is who I'm gonna work with and going forward. And like he got right on with it. And we did all sorts of blood work to do food sensitivity testing. Um, Found out a bunch of the foods, healthy foods that was eating were all things that I was sensitive to. I was like, oh, awesome. So that's causing inflammation in my body.
Is that something you'd
Um,
even recommend to anybody? I mean, not even in a stage 4 cancer situation,
yeah, I would definitely
just to
do
the food
do
sensitivity.
food testing. It's so, so helpful to
Yeah.
know because inflammation leads to disease.
Hmm.
And so you want to make sure that the inflammation in your body is down. So without a doubt. I also found out that I had three different types of mold in my blood. I found out, and we had had mold remediation done in our home. So I found out that I had high levels of mercury. I found out that I had high levels of formaldehyde, and I some of that could have been from the mold remediation. The guy that came in and did it sprayed a bunch of the 2x4s that he cleaned down with kills, aerosol kills, and had that in my home. And I was just like, oh my gosh, like seriously right now? And of course, I couldn't do anything about it because he didn't tell me he was going to do it until after he did it. And but I had also done a painting job for a friend, and while I was doing all the prep work, they had laid brand new LVP flooring in the entire place. And so it was off gassing. Meanwhile, I'm in there with
Oh,
it. Yeah. So I mean, there were a lot of potential formaldehyde exposures that I wouldn't have ordinarily had. Um, while I probably was sick, you know. Um, and and then found out that I had parasites as well, and like just you name it. And this is someone that was healthy.
mhm.
Like seriously. I mean, wow. So so anyhow, I started working with him and he immediately got me on a customized supplement plan, and I just knew right away that like I knew that the tumor was getting close to the surface and getting ready to break through, and that if I was going to do anything, I needed to do it quickly. And that's why I went out to the center for 3 weeks last January.
So he was
And
you're in
yep,
Maine. Okay, so that's
yeah,
doctor, yep. And you were there.
yeah,
Yeah, of course, you were there 3 weeks. So,
yeah, I
hmm.
was. So it was incredible, incredibly hard and incredibly wonderful all
Hmm.
at the same time. Um,
And that was to give you some hope that maybe that his treatment could
yeah.
some heal it, and at the same
That
time,
well, that the tumor would respond
okay.
and start to shrink,
And at the
because
other tests were revealing all of this stuff that
yeah.
to fight
And
it.
and here's the thing, like I would not have been opposed to having the tumor removed. I wasn't opposed to that.
Hmm.
I wouldn't have let them take 20 lymph nodes out of my body, but I maybe would have let them take the two or three that were involved, but that would have been it. Um, like my other friend with breast cancer, they took over 20 lymph nodes and she had like two teeny tiny tumors, like
Oh, wow.
tiny. And they went back in and removed tons of lymph nodes that after they tested them were completely unaffected, no cancer in them whatsoever. And yeah, I was just like, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so yeah, it just seemed too much. But anyhow, unfortunately, uh the tumor did not respond the way we had hoped to. It like things kind of stabilized, I would say. Initially things stabilized, but then it just started to grow again.
Do you feel like that during that time period you learned more of what could help manage anything like from the pain or energy levels or that type of thing? Like,
Well, like through the time, whoops, no, sorry, my
and
desk wasn't locked. Started to go up on me. Um, the I think one of the big things that Dr. Karlfeld does is he works with the whole person. So like immediately when he started working with me, he wanted me to start recall healing, which is a type of program that like figures out where there's any stored trauma in your body, if there are any traumas that need to be healed, to like deal with all of that. Because if you don't deal with what's causing the cancer to start and to grow and to multiply, then there's you can cut things out all day long and it's just going to keep coming back. I mean, how many times have we seen that people have everything cut out and everything removed, and then in no time it's like popped up somewhere else
Yeah.
or has just started growing again.
And that's a type,
So,
that's also
yep, go ahead.
um, the type of like work that you wouldn't have gotten that in a
No.
hospital setting.
Mm.
Like that's the
Oh
type of
gosh, no.
like let's say the tumor did shrink. Like let's just say
Yeah.
you got more life added to you, and that experience of you even being there and learning that and identifying those things, and I could just see where that would help the quality of life even if you had another 20 years, versus another route where take this because it'll help your depression, or take this where it's
Yeah.
all of that stuff you're not really dealing with, again, like you said, the triggers.
Well, that is in fact the interesting thing because like I have done the recall healing and continued to go through the whole entire program, and like just within a couple of weeks ago graduated from it. Like we're done. My counselor was like, we've touched everything that we can touch. Like I can't justify charging you another penny for anything. And she's like, yeah, if you need me, I'm here. But like, yeah. So
This is where I tell you, write a book, Carrie. Right?
yeah. Well,
Like you're
there there's
mentally
there's
all.
quite a lot. There's quite a lot in there, but I mean it was super helpful. Just like being out in Idaho was just, they just loved on me and cared for me in the most amazing, wonderful way.
Like you had so many answers to prayer, and even having the
Huge.
gal go with you
Yeah.
last minute to be able to be there. Like you had
Yeah.
someone fly out from Maine with
Mhm.
you and stay
Yeah.
there for 3 weeks and have,
That she barely knew me and we
yeah,
barely knew each other.
literally
And
airplane. You even
she
said, I don't know this person, not sure if she's gonna be able to put up with me. Here we go. Um,
And but
yeah.
God knew that she was exactly who needed to be with me. And and she was just wonderful. Like she worked remotely and would do all of her work while I was at the clinic, and then I would come home and she would feed me dinner and make sure I had lunch the next day and just took care of me. And like days that because I had injections directly into the tumor 6 times. And those days I could not drive myself. It was just too intense, and um also brought a lot of emotion out when that happened too. And so she would come and get me, and um yeah, and then bring me home and put food in front of me, and yep, and toddle me off to bed. And yeah, I mean it was amazing. It was amazing. And I mean, for two women that don't know each other to be like together for 3 weeks like that and like just get along fine and
And
get along great.
that's amazing.
Just amazing. Yeah, just absolutely amazing. Um, but here's the thing, like through all of the through all of the everything, all of the recall healing stuff and everything that went on out there, um, the amazing thing is that while now I'm gonna get emotional. Well, at the moment, God has not chosen to heal my physical body. He healed my soul. Like, he brought me to a place where I am healed.
Yeah, yeah. Wow.
Like, any trauma is gone. It's amazing.
And
Like, it is miraculous and
I just
amazing.
that's I can just vouch for that. No, just being able to
Mhm.
talk to you, hear you, and I mean, you just have the best attitude and just that spiritual. You like, I feel like, and I know you have your fears, but I feel like you're just a fearless
Right.
person. You
Well,
know?
yeah, I mean, we all have our moments, and so here's an interesting little side note. Um, so one of our ladies in our house church last December had started us up with the YouVersion app, and there was like this little study on Advent for the season, and she was like, "Hey, let's all do this together," and da da da. And I was like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, you know what? That'll be interesting. Well, it just so happened that the timing was perfect because my doctor was like, I want you to start doing coffee enemas twice a day. And I was like, oh, for the love of God, are you kidding me right now? And I was like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. This is what we're gonna do. Well, it worked out that having that YouVersion app and being able to do that study was something that I never realized. So after all of these years of homeschooling my kids, never occurred to me to study the Bible in my learning style, which is audio visual. And so to be able to have like a little button where I could have the scripture read to me so I could be hearing it, and then have like little videos to like explain things, I was like, this is amazing. And so that would become has become my Bible study time,
Yeah.
is like that, morning when I'm on the bathroom floor, like, there you go. I got my phone, I'm doing my Bible study,
That's
and
character habit stacking right there.
that's my habit stacking, right? And the cool thing was is that as the new year approached, she was like, hey, let's do the Bible recap, which is go through the Bible chronologically in a year.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, I'm in, because this has been so good, and it has been just amazing, just amazing. Like, so, and it just so happened to work out when I was in Idaho, going through these grueling, like, I was having multiple IVs, 4 to 5 different IVs a day, and uh, colon hydrotherapy every day, and ozone treatments and red light therapy, and you name it, I was having it. I had UV light put intravenously in, and yeah. So it just so happened while I was there, we were studying the book of Job.
Well,
I mean,
I haven't
if
had
you
that
don't think God doesn't have a sense of humor, like,
especially because I know at that time it was tough because you've got everybody has their opinions.
oh
Everybody
yeah,
wants to say it's because of this. Not they're saying you have it because of this, but they want to tell you what to do, what treatment to take,
yeah.
and you had to deal with that too on top of it.
Fortunately, I really didn't. I mean, there was only one person that was ugly about it. And I know that it was purely out of deep love, and that that person did not know how to like handle it. And is very much a believer in allopathic and only allopathic, and anything that's natural is just nothing, and and you can't do it. But like literally every person in my life has
Oh,
been
so
a
good.
1,000% supportive of the
Oh,
way that I've chosen.
mm,
And I don't like, me, I'm not a social media person. So I am insulated from that.
mhm,
And yeah, and so if there have been naysayers out there, they haven't made it to me,
mm,
and which is a
good.
beautiful thing,
Yeah.
because that it's not their journey, it's not their life,
Yeah.
and it's not their family, and they might think that they can judge, but they can't.
Yeah.
They really can't. They don't know what my family is able to deal with and handle, and me.
Yeah.
Like I am a super independent, active, busy person,
Mhm.
and it would literally drive me crazy to like there is going to come a point in time where I will be bedridden, and yeah, but I also trust that God has gotten me this far. He is not going to leave me or forsake me. He knows my personality, and I mean, I think about it sometimes and I'm like, huh, like God has all of our days numbered. And I'm not entitled to any more days than anybody else. Like, really. And I don't know where we get this idea that, like, oh my goodness, we're supposed to live until we're 100 years old. Like, I remember my grandmother in her 90s going, oh my gosh, like, Lord, just please take me home already. And I remember that. And um, but God only he gave his only son 33 years on this earth. That's it. I've had almost 57 at this point. Like, it's okay. Like, it's okay. And and I think that that's really important, is like coming to that point. I love, once again, God's sense of humor, that he knows that I'm a planner, and actually let me know that I am going to be leaving this earth, in a somewhat close amount of time, and gave me the amount of time to like hire a home organizer to go through my house and like get all my stuff in order so that my kids wouldn't have to worry about that, and um do all of that kind of stuff. Like,
You were telling me too, because I remember when you told me that it was stage 4, and then and just word hospice, just like what
yeah,
and it's hard, but and then you also recommended the book, in which I'm almost all the way
yeah.
through, and I feel here I go. Okay, I feel like that it reminds me in a way of choosing hospice reminds me of the same of choosing home birth. We just
Mm-hmm.
my my daughter-in-law give birth to our first grandchild. So,
Yeah.
and she did a home birth. And I just
Mm-hmm.
I already know because I've had 4 at home, knowing the beauty and the difference. It's so different. It's so
Mm-hmm.
hard in so many ways. You could
Yep.
Everybody's like, how would you do that? Get the epidural. I've had them all. I've had every kind of, I mean, with 9 kids, I've pretty much done everything
Yeah,
happened.
you really have. You really have.
But that by far is my favorite. It's the hard route to go, but it's my favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, I can't even describe how close to God you feel too, because you
Yeah.
realize as soon as this baby is, everything about it. And the more you study it and know the
Mm-hmm.
science, it even gets better. So now on the other end of life, reading this book, it treats it the same way. Like
Mm-hmm.
the beauty of exiting the earth is
Yeah.
not to be feared. And
Right.
she even keeps saying, you got get used to the word dead. I'm like, oh no, no.
You're right. Yeah, I know. And that's why I love, so we're talking about the book called Have No Fear, and by Julie McFadden, a hospice nurse. And
Both sides too, because she had been
yep, an
um
ICU nurse. And it it helped me so much, because I didn't realize, like, my kids were trying to have these difficult conversations with me, and I didn't realize I was putting up the mama wall of like, oh, we don't really need to talk about like these things, and because like I was trying to protect them, and it wasn't protecting them. It was like they needed to have these conversations. And so reading that book really helped me to be able to go, no, this is important.
Yeah.
Like they're grown men, like you can have these conversations with them. And yeah, the whole hospice thing was a total accident. Because I read the book and there's this checklist in the book of things that you should do, because there's like a chapter for the person that's dying and a chapter for the caregiver. And
You're like, I got
so
time.
yeah, I'm like, I'm busy, I'm doing stuff. Like, here you go. So, I kind of forgot that I was stage 4. so so I was like, going through my checklist. So one of the things was meet with hospice, get to know them, yada yada. And so I was like, all right, I'm gonna put my big girl panties on and we're gonna do this. And I had the nurse and the social worker came out and met with me, and we went through all of the stuff, and the nurse examined me. And so that was on a Friday, and on a Monday the social worker called me back and she was like, so hey, just wanted to give you information for like the financial piece of things, and this is the person that you reach out to, and yada yada yada. And I'm like, okay, that's all well and good, but I don't even know that I medically qualify yet. And she's
There is
like,
a
oh
chapter on
no.
that. Yeah, I remember that. There's a chapter on, are you medically qualified? And what does she say?
And so she's like, oh, well, let me see what the nurse has any notes in here. And she goes, oh, yep. So she met with the medical director and you medically qualify. I went,
That's the
wait, what?
weirdest conversation.
The, excuse me? Like, wait a minute. Like, let's take a moment here. Okay, so what you're saying is the good news is I medically qualify. The bad news
Is that
is
I'm medically qualified?
I'm medically qualify. Like, she's like,
Oh,
yeah, it's kind of like that with hospice. But
mm,
fortunately, I had read the book
mhm.
and I was no longer afraid of hospice. And I was like, all right, well, if I medically qualify and I got the financial piece in order, like I'm going on hospice. Like, why wouldn't I? Because God had already gone before me. The nurse that was assigned to my area is a wound care specialist.
Oh, amazing.
And oh yeah. So, and I mean, my doctor's in Idaho, so nobody actually ever was looking at me or
Yeah,
taking vitals or anything. So to have that was just, it is amazing. Like,
yeah.
and they have been so amazing. It's just given such a great sense of comfort and peace. And when I went out to visit my granddaughter in Ohio a couple weeks ago, I was able to have a travel contract. So I was able to have hospice care out in Ohio while I
Oh,
was
like
traveling
meet with a person if you needed to.
if I needed to, if I
Oh,
needed to. So it was all set up. So if heaven forbid anything happened, I knew I could call hospice out there and I wouldn't have to worry about getting taken to a hospital and all of that shenanigans. So, I mean, there's stuff that they provide that it's a shame that people are so terrified of it
and one thing
because
I like, oh, go ahead.
yeah, yeah, because unfortunately there's two things that happen. Either like doctors won't recommend them for hospice until it's the very end
Mhm.
because they don't want to like really face the reality of where their patient is, or people are like, "Oh no, 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 no. Like that means I'm going to die." Well, I already know I'm going to die, but I have a choice of whether or not I'm going to be supported in that journey.
Mhm.
And the support that they give is amazing and wonderful. And yeah, so I mean
Yeah,
that's my other huge thing is like, don't
Yeah.
wait. If you
I like
qualify, go
that.
on it.
Like everybody should have, only if you're qualified, but
Yeah.
everybody should have a husband. But to actually think of that definitely for the future. Um,
Hmm.
what I liked about what she brought out in the book is that it's not meant to speed it up faster
No.
for you. And I think people get that misconception of like, oh, this
Yeah.
means, and it's not meant to slow things down, but it ends up that she has found that you have the person in hospice care has actually longer days, like not longer days, but they have more life to them as a
Yeah.
result. I'm sure,
Better quality of life.
yeah. And you're surrounded by people who love you. You have experts that really understand. Kind of goes back to the doctor that knows your charts, knows everything
Right.
about you. So when they're coming in, if they're going to give you a prescription drug, they know what it's going to do. And for you, it's right. But for the person in the room next door with the same condition, it's not right for them. But with hospice, they know all the signs. And it was really helpful to even know the signs too, as like if you're the caregiver to read that
Yeah.
and to know like no, don't worry, this means this, so it's just you
Oh
get a little
yeah, like that's
help.
what I said. I mean, I don't know if you've gotten through the whole thing yet, but that's why I said if this book had been around when I was homeschooling my kids, I would have totally had them read it in high school just because it's life skills. Like and it really busts a lot of myths
Yeah.
because people just they have so many thoughts about what it is that it's just not. And um like absolutely every person that I have dealt with in the hospice organization that I'm with has been so wonderful and so
Yeah.
helpful.
This seems like that, that they
Goodness.
know what they're doing and they're
Yeah.
called, they chose that over the hospital environment. And even to say something
Yeah.
about the hospital environment, I feel like, especially the last 4 years probably, but when someone passes away in the hospital, it doesn't seem like it's ever a
Yeah.
very good situation. There have been so many
It's not.
deaths and sudden and not the
Mhm.
way it should be. It's just like
Right.
it's unfair to the person, unfair to the families, and whereas at hospice, because like you said, we all have our days numbered. At least the end of life can just be going out with a good bang, just like
Right.
being surrounded by the people who love you. You're comfortable. Like I forgot the
Yeah.
three things you said: safe, comfortable, and something else. But
Yeah, I know. I can't remember either. There's another one in there. But yeah, I mean, and that's the thing that's so cool is like there's like they've all been like I am still doing all of my stuff.
I was going to
Like
tell you
they're
talk about that because you're not bedridden. You're not even
no,
home. You're
no.
you're on your day to day. Would you say you're
I'm
tired?
on my
You're on your
exercise
bed. Yes.
ball. Yeah. So this last week has been a little bit rougher as far as like all my blood work came back better than 2 months ago. All my blood work came back better than 2 months ago. My nurse looks at the blood work and she's like, "Oh my gosh, you're so healthy." Like
I could
literally,
your body.
that's my hospice nurse. Like they're all like, "We never see numbers like this." They're like, "This is crazy." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know." But unfortunately the pain has ticked up and it will. So we're trying to figure out for right now some natural approaches to manage that. Um, and because like I really don't want to have to do the opioids and stuff until I have to. But and here's the thing, I mean, when that time comes, that time will come. Um, but they don't push any of that. They don't like I do have what's called an emergency pack, which has like all of these like emergency meds, like in case God forbid something were to happen in the middle of the night. I have things right there that can be taken.
You can
So
call,
be
right? 24/7, you can call.
right,
Yeah.
right. So that's all great. And but I mean we'll navigate that when the time comes.
Yeah.
But but yeah, so I mean they're allowing me to continue to do all of my things. It's they don't go, oh, you're on hospice, you just need to sit home and die. Like, stop doing all your stuff. No, they're not like that at all. And it was really funny when one day my nurse showed up and one of my friends was over helping me make my green juice. And so my nurse kind of walked in and she was like, wow, like it smells like fresh or something. And so I handed her like a little kind of a shot of green juice and gave it to her and she was like, "Oh, okay, that's not so bad." And a little bit while later, we were sitting and talking at the table and she goes, "You know, when I showed up here, I was feeling kind of like I was dragging and like my energy had kind of dipped." And she's like, "But you know what? Now that once I had that green juice," she's like, "I've like perked right up."
When
So
you're ready,
like
it's
they're
just,
learning stuff.
you want to take a blood pressure?
Yeah, right.
Uh,
So I don't know. I might need to share my green juice with her to keep her
yeah.
perked up.
Well,
Or, yeah.
that's why I feel like, part of me is just like, oh, Carrie has still so much. You still have so much. Like you need a longer life because you still have so much to share and influence people, like you have
Yeah.
with me. I feel like, oh, so that part's always hard. But yeah, at the same time, just seeing, here we go.
It's
Just seeing
okay.
your
We're
joy.
gonna let it out.
Yeah, yeah. Just your joy is like, oh, I want to be you, and I have to go through that. It's like to have just that, the beauty just emanating from you. So, well,
Thank
we should
you.
probably wrap up on a sad note, but happy note. But like like even today, it is what, November 17th, 2024. You don't know what the future is
Yep.
going to hold. And I
We
feel like,
don't.
well, maybe we should still do these little check-ins because even seeing you now, it's great. And I even listening to the book too, it's like understanding. I feel like all that knowledge of just understanding how the end and even just what happens to your body,
Yeah.
what happens to your skin, what happens
Yeah.
to your ability to breathe, just eating, drinking, all those things are so, I mean, that book was so enlightening to me. But
Yeah.
you just keep like we'll just check in with you and then that
Yeah.
gives you a chance like maybe you have more things like oh hey I want to share this with the world. You give us
Well,
advice.
and here's the thing. It's like the beautiful thing is that it has been a really beautiful journey.
Yeah.
Like there has like no part of my care has been harsh or horrible. I mean, it was hard being in Idaho,
Mhm.
but I was hugely blessed by
Yeah,
my
it sounded like
experience out there.
weird.
Like
You said in camp almost, or did we just have
like
that one like
it was yeah, it was like one of those mountaintop experiences, like, and I was literally in the mountains, um but where God just showed up and ministered to me in such a real and incredible way. um but all of the things that I've done since I've got back home have been like, I just have these amazing women that have just loved on me and cared for me and like held space, healing space for me. Like, no, you're not going to cure cancer with acupuncture and chiropractic and da 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 and all that, the other stuff that I do, but and I do acutonics as well. But here's the thing, it's like supporting my body. It's like helping my nervous system to like relax and calm down and to be able to receive healing. And that has been beautiful, just absolutely beautiful that I haven't had to deal with any hospitals and horrible, nasty procedures or any of that kind of stuff. Like it's all been so wonderful, like that, kind and gentle and loving.
yeah.
And, when you're talking about the home births, and like she talks about it in that book that the body knows how to, A
Yep.
body knows how to be born. You
Hmm.
know, a human knows how to be born, and a human knows how to, the body knows how to die as well. And and it was so interesting. Like my acutonics person just recently had a baby at 40, had a home birth, and our chiropractor like went over and adjusted her while she was starting her labor, and within 15 minutes the labor got like full on. And then after the baby was born, she came over to the house and adjusted the baby, and then within a few minutes of the baby being adjusted, he started latching right on, and like every, yeah, it was amazing. And I thought about that and I was like, huh, like if she can help during the birth
Hmm.
and help the baby, like I wonder if she can help during the death.
Should ask.
And I asked her about it, and she was like, yes, I
Has she
would
done
be
that before?
honored. She has done it before.
Oh, interesting.
And yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
So I know, I was like, how cool and how wonderful to be able
Yeah,
to have that. Like
yeah,
that's just
yeah.
so,
Oh,
yeah. So I think that, when we are able to hold every thought captive and not get afraid and caught up in the fear aspect of it, but really look at the beauty of, you know, what these people have to offer, different people have to offer.
yeah,
And I want it to be, I want it to be a beautiful death,
yeah, yeah.
you
Oh,
know? Yeah.
yep.
Like let's wrap it up well,
Yes. That's
you
why
know?
you have flowers at a birth, you have flowers at a death, and maybe
Mm,
there's something to that.
I
Um,
don't know,
hmm.
but I just got some fresh ones yesterday.
That's premonition right there.
There you go. There you go.
Carrie, I love you.
I
But it's
love you.
still not the end, so we can still keep doing these or
Absolutely.
so, and then you'll have to keep sharing
Absolutely.
your writing because it's like, wow, I never would have thought to pick up a book like that, to think about that.
Hmm.
So I've got, people on the older end kind of
Yeah.
finishing their life, but made to have it in my head now all the time is good. So
Oh, yeah, because there is going to come a time in the not too distant future where randomly out of the blue, your kids are going to start asking you these questions.
mm,
So, have you planned for this? And what are your plans? And it's like, whoa, dude, wait, what?
what are you gonna do, bigger?
Like, like they want to know. Like they want to know these things. And even before you're sick, they want to know.
The boys, yeah,
So,
that's good
yeah,
though.
it's good to be having that dialogue and
Mhm.
wrapping your mind around those things.
Yeah.
And
And it'll make it so much more special for you too to be surrounded.
right,
To like, okay, I don't have to worry about, they don't have to think, oh, we should have asked mom this, but she's so sick,
right.
trying to make her,
Yep.
so it's just
Yeah.
kind of all that out of the way. And
Yeah, because so many people they just kick the can down the road or they're afraid to have these conversations. And it's not, it's like if you love your kids and your family, like have these conversations. Like, you know, they're hard, but they're necessary. And um yeah, and it's just been so helpful to my kids. Like so, so helpful. And that's what us mamas want to do.
yeah,
We want to help our babies no matter how old they are.
after us. So,
I
mm.
know. I know.
Well, I will put this video up somewhere and we'll be able to go back to it and watch it. So,
Okay.
and I'll
Well,
get in touch when we do this again.
yes,
Um,
absolutely.
and then think of anything you want to, say, hey, let's get on and talk about such and such. We'll do it.
Okay. All
All right.
right.
Well, I
Sounds
love
like
you.
a plan.
All
I
right.
love you. All right. Good night.
Bye.